gardeners, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I wanted to go over what it's like to care for baby crested geckos. So taking care of baby crested geckos is very similar to taking care of adults, but there are just a couple of little differences and there are some frequent questions that I get about them. So I'm going to cover all of that in this video today, and hopefully it'll be more helpful for you, especially if you're taking care of a baby crested gecko or you're planning to get one in the future. So the very first difference between the baby crested geckos and the adults is obviously their size. The babies are way smaller than the adults. So this right here is a crested gecko egg, and this is an egg that hatched out a baby for me last week. So if you can imagine, like, this is very tiny. A gecko has to fit inside of that. So the baby that's going to come right outside of that egg is going to be very tiny. And that's important to keep in mind because the babies are more delicate than the adults, and they're also very fast. So usually once they come right out of the egg, they're like running away, and that can be very intimidating for a new owner. And that's precisely why when I got my very first crested gecko, I went for an adult right off the bat because I was way too nervous about getting a baby just because of how fast they are. Crested geckos are very jumpy geckos, and you can imagine how that would be for a baby. And you also don't want to hurt them, and you don't want to be like chasing them around and accidentally like put pressure on their tail, because then they'll drop their tail as well. So it's just a little bit more work, and they're just way more delicate and quicker than the adults. So that's something to keep in mind if you're looking to get a baby crested gecko rather than an adult crested gecko. So the next thing regarding care is obviously because of their size difference, they're going to have different sized enclosures. So some people will make the mistake of going all out and putting a baby crested gecko in a larger Exoterra enclosure, even a 12 by 12 by 18, and that's far too large for them. Depending on what size your crested gecko is, they actually do better in smaller enclosures as they're growing up, just to make sure that they're getting their food source, because a lot of them can have a hard time if they're upgraded into a larger enclosure. And also, if there's not enough foliage in it, they may not feel secure and it will stress them out as well. So it's just easier to keep them in a smaller enclosure. And I'm going to go ahead and show you guys that at the end of the video. I'll show you how I set up my baby crested geckos, and you'll get a little glimpse of all of them because they're adorable. But even adult crested geckos, when you're upgrading them, sometimes they just don't do very well in larger enclosures, and they just can't find their food and they end up losing weight and you have to downgrade them again. So it's just very important if you have a baby crested gecko to keep them in that smaller enclosure and slowly upgrade them with more space over time to make sure that they're still eating, they're still thriving, and they're comfortable in those enclosures. Other than that, everything is pretty much the same when it comes to caring. When it comes to the humidity for the baby crested geckos, it is exactly the same as the adult. So it's going to be 60 to 80%, and I find that it works best to mist them every morning, and a very heavy misting at nighttime, because that's when they're waking up and that's when they're going to hydrate themselves as well. When it comes to feeding schedules for the babies, I actually feed all of my crested geckos every 3 days. So I switch off between Pangea and insects every 3 days for my crested geckos. The only difference is for my babies, and you don't have to do this is just what I find works for me. When I have very fresh hatchlings that are just out of the egg, for the very first month, I just stick to Pangea, because Pangea is where they're going to be getting all of those vitamins and nutrients. It's basically everything that they need for their nutrition in that formula. And a lot of the times baby crested geckos, they love the insects and they may prefer that over the Pangea. So because of that, I like to make sure that they're getting started off on the Pangea. They're getting that in their system, they're getting used to it, and they realize that that is a food source for them, just to make sure that over time they're going to continue to eat that Pangea as well. And then later on, as long as they're doing well, they're eating and they're pooping, then I'll start to offer the insects as well. And again, because of the size difference, if you're feeding a baby crested gecko compared to an adult, you do want to make sure that the insect size is going to be a little bit different. So the rule of thumb is usually to feed them an insect that's pretty much the size in between their two eyeballs on the side of their head. So you don't want to feed them an insect that's larger than the size of their head, because it's just way too big for them and they may have a hard time swallowing it. So if you have babies, you have to use like really, really tiny little crickets for the hatchlings. But just use that rule of thumb. Look at the size of your gecko and try not to feed them an insect that's larger than their head because it's just way too big for them. And then over time, as they grow, you can continue to upgrade them with their insect size as well. Just like the adult crested geckos, the baby crested geckos are definitely going to need a lot of foliage within their enclosure, something that they can hide in and feel nice and secure. Having foliage in the enclosure is also so great for them because as you're misting, the water droplets will stay on the little plants that you have in there, and then they can hydrate themselves off of the foliage within the enclosure. I personally find that it works best to, especially if you have a hatchling crested gecko, to keep it on paper towels because you really want to make sure that your gecko is pooping. A lot of people that keep baby crested geckos, you can't really see a difference in the Pangea and how much is missing, so you don't know if your gecko is eating. The only way to truly know if your gecko is eating is if you see poop. So if they're pooping, that means they're absolutely eating. So keeping them on paper towels will guarantee that you're going to be able to see those poops to know whether they're eating or not, to make sure that you have a healthy gecko. Then over time, as your gecko grows, you can totally just choose whatever you want to do regarding substrate. You can use Eco Earth substrate. You can go bioactive. I just personally wouldn't do that for the babies because you do want to monitor their pooping schedule and make sure that they're eating. So with all of this said, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys my setup for my baby crested geckos, and you guys get to see what they look like because they are adorable. I finally have Dalmatian crested geckos, which is what I've always wanted. So I'm just like so excited about it. I do have other baby crested geckos from Oakley and Echo. All of those babies are now at Curious Creatures and they are available to purchase. So if you're ever in the Chicago area, highly recommend checking out Curious Creatures, if not for my geckos, but all of the other reptiles that they sell there. They're amazing people there too. It's just the best place ever, so you have to check it out. So I'm gonna stop blabbering and I'm gonna show you guys my geckos now. Chacho, this video is not about you. It's not about you. So these are the tubs that I use for my baby crested geckos. I have the newest born that just hatch out. I put them in these really small enclosures. So it's just these little tubs. There's a little baby right there just hanging out in the open. So as you can see, like there's a big size difference compared from this orange container to the one on the left. So as they get a little bit bigger, I move them into the larger enclosures. So these ones you can just buy at a pet store. They're just the critter keepers. So you can just find that at like Petco or PetSmart. There's another little baby down here. That one's sleeping. That one just hatched out literally just a couple of days ago. So it is like very, very fresh. So then these enclosures over here, these are just cheap little tubs that you can literally get at like Walmart or Target, wherever. Super cheap. I think I actually got these ones at the dollar store. So the thing is with these enclosures, I have holes all around them. And I also put holes on the top of them as well. I use a soldering iron because you do want to make sure that it will be ventilated because the tubs hold in a lot of humidity, which the babies obviously need, but there also needs to be some ventilation as well. So that is why I do that. So we're just going to take a peek inside. I guess we'll open this one first. So this one was born on April 8th. And I don't have names for any of these babies because I'm just going to sell them anyway. So I just have some fake plants in here, and there is a little baby tucked in. They're sleeping right now. Let's see if I can get the little one out. And there is one of the little babies right there. This one has a couple of Dalmatian spots on him. Super cute. Look at that cute little face. But yeah, baby crested geckos are like one of my favorite things in life. They're just so adorable. So I'm going to let him sleep some more. So that is his little tub. So there's the baby right there. Literally just hatched out 2 days ago. So it is a fresh new little baby. So adorable. It's so weird because their colors change so much. So they're always really, really dark when they hatch out. And then they get way more patterns as they grow and get bigger. So there's the little pipsqueak. Very, very cute. And then in this tub over here, I have 2 babies in this one. I need to make a separate tub. Usually I separate all of my babies. It's okay to keep the hatchlings together, but it's better just to separate them just in case there like is a fight or whatever. They're fighting over food. These were both born on May 15th, so temporarily they're just both in here. It's fine. So I just need to make another tub. So there's one of the babies, and both of these are actually Dalmatians. So let's see if we can get this other one out who's tucked in over here. And there is the other little baby. So they're both like little Dalmatians. This one has, I think, the most Dalmatian spots of all of them. Let's see if I could just take this out. Now this one's crawling over here. You can see the little Dalmatian spots on that one. And here is this tiny little baby. Okay, and now they're both just in this corner. As you can see, the baby crested geckos are very, very fast. And I don't want you to escape, so you're gonna stay in there. So there are the babies. They are absolutely adorable. They're both getting a lot of Dalmatian spots right now, and I'm just like really excited about that because you guys know how I feel about Dalmatian crested geckos. They're like my favorite thing in life. So yeah, these guys are just super cute. I love them. And once I raise them up and they're bigger, I will sell them over at Curious Creatures. So yeah, that's their little tub setup. It's working great for both of them for now. And those are my babies. And Metamora is out right now. So I just thought I'd get a little clip of her because look at how green she's turning. It's absolutely stunning. I'm just so excited for her to turn green. She's just so pretty. And that completes this video. So I hope that you guys enjoyed seeing my geckos, and I hope that this video was helpful for you. If you would like to add anything to this video that I didn't mention, any helpful tips, please leave it in a comment. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to leave it in a comment and I will get to it. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.